Harry's wife, 102.46. Divorce ahead. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor, continuing to unravel narcissism for you, utilizing my unrivaled insight and expertise as the Sir David Attenborough of the world of narcissism. Divorce is common where there is a dynamic with the narcissist in a romantic setting. Indeed, the majority of divorces occur because one or more narcissists are involved. I've explained in my excellent video why divorce is so hard, and I recommend that you watch that. Simply, many relationships end up in the divorce courts because there is a marriage between victim and narcissist, and sometimes two narcissists. Most narcissists who end up married end up moving towards the divorce courts because either, rarely, the victim escapes them and instigates divorce against them, or sometimes the narcissist, as a response to the victim escaping, instigates a divorce petition, or more usually, the narcissist disengages from the victim and in so doing asserts control and continues to assert control, using the divorce process as an instrument of control by then launching a petition against that victim. Most relationships where the relationship is one that has been consummated by marriage endure. That doesn't mean that they are relationships without problems, because the world proves to be a difficult place to navigate. People get ill, people are bereaved, people become depressed, they lose their jobs. They sometimes aren't as enthusiastic about the relationship as they once were. They have children, which, as I've seen from other people, place a considerable strain upon the relationship. But notwithstanding that, neither party abuses one another because neither is a narcissist. Yes, there may be occasions where they might lose their temper. They may, for instance, sit and sulk. They may not be as together as they once were, but they're not being abused. And those incidents of where there is perhaps an argument or somebody raises their voice are few and far between. Why? Neither party needs control. Neither party operates without emotional empathy. Neither party abuses. And therefore, the relationships which don't have narcissists involved invariably endure. Some are solid, healthy, excellent relationships where the two people stay together for a very long time. Others, there's no abuse, but they suffer from the periods of boredom, periods of it being less exciting, but nevertheless the relationship endures. Neither abuses the other. But where a narcissist enters the equation and marriage has occurred, there is a considerable risk that it will end up in the divorce courts. And that's why so many divorces are nasty, fractious, competitive even. It's because, and the system doesn't realise this, that narcissists are involved. The system itself shouldn't be a difficult one. Two people no longer want to remain married, therefore there needs to be a division of assets, possible arrangements with children. There are people who are not narcissists who do divorce, and I've explained more about that in Why is Divorce So Hard. But the majority of instances that end up in the divorce courts are simply there because a narcissist has disengaged from the relationship, and because the parties were married, it has to go through a divorce. However, many of those individuals that work within the system don't realise this to be the case. They don't realise that it's infested with narcissists and insist upon this. Let's all collaborate and let's all be friends. Let's have an amicable outcome. Well, that's all very well where there isn't a narcissist at either party, where, in one of the rarer instances, that a relationship has broken down where no narcissist is involved, and it does happen. However, most of the time where there is the breakdown of the marriage, a narcissist is involved, and that means that narcissist behaviour is then going to move across into the divorce process itself, with all of the problems that occur with that, with the continuance of a form of abuse, the necessity of asserting control, drawing fuel, etc. Accordingly, most relationships that involve a narcissist will end up in a divorce situation, and it would appear that there's speculation that this could be where the Sussexes are headed. According to an article in the International Business Times written by Tanya Diente, Harry's wife, growing tired of Prince Harry, wants out of Monty Shitshow. Rumours of divorce have long been following Prince Harry and Harry's wife, the recent one stating that she wants a change of career and a new man. Royal author Tom Bower made the assumption that the Duchess of Sussex is no longer happy in her relationship with the Duke of Sussex. Well, she was never actually truly happy to begin with when the relationship began, although she believed that she was. She doesn't experience happiness. We narcissists do not. Her narcissism convinced her of happiness, but it was actually an infatuation with Prince Harry when they were in the golden period, when she seduced him as an intimate partner secondary source, and then when she embedded him. The article continues that Bower claimed that there are many in London who say that she is tiring of Harry. And of course, that may well be accurate, because Harry is in the sustained devaluation, the section of the dynamic between narcissist and victim which always, I repeat, always occurs where you have a narcissist and an intimate partner primary source. Quite simply, the narcissist becomes bored of the individual, bored of their fuel, or their behaviour is such that their fuel remains fresh, but it's not given often enough or is in large amounts enough, and therefore unconsciously threatens the narcissist's need for control, or the behaviour of the victim is such that it repeatedly threatens the narcissist for control. Either way, the sustained devaluation always makes an appearance. It's punctuated, of course, by respite golden periods where everything seems rosy in the garden before it goes back to the bleak form of sustained devaluation, in whatever form that may take. Bower told Page 6, they speculate that in 2 years she will say, this is enough, and should negotiate some sort of deal with King Charles III to break the marriage. Bower, who wrote the controversial Revenge, Harry's Wife, Harry and the War Between the Windsors, thinks that, at the moment, Prince Harry and Harry's wife are bound to their marriage because they allegedly share the same goal, and that is to destroy the royal family. I would suggest that that's inaccurate. Prince Harry does not wish to share the royal family, destroy the royal family rather, and nor does Harry's wife. It might be a collateral consequence of her activities, but she hasn't sat down and devised a master plan to destroy them. They, of course, repeatedly smear, but that is done on an ad hoc basis. When something happens within the royal family, which threatens Harry's wife's sense of control, her narcissism must move to assert control over them. Often that means she can't do it directly. She can't go and see them, she doesn't ring them up, she doesn't send them a message. Her narcissism doesn't take her in that direction, either because she has no actual means of contacting them, or, quite simply, the narcissism recognises that even if she were to attempt that, it would meet in failure, and therefore as a self-defence mechanism is not going to take her down that road. Instead, to assert control over them, it directs her to do so indirectly, utilising smearing, and therefore she tells lies, puts out puff pieces which take a sideswipe at the royal family, she makes comments in interviews and so forth, which then, because she's invariably talking to some supine publication or a member of the coterie, this then affords her that subconscious sense of control. This keeps happening. Every time a member of the royal family, whether it's King Charles, the Prince or Princess of Wales, etc., come up on her radar, her narcissism needs to control them. It doesn't take her in the direct route, it takes her down the second assertion of control, indirect, and she smears. And because they will keep coming up on her radar, the smears keep coming. It isn't part of an orchestrated campaign by her, but to the uneducated eye it looks like that. It's simply that on an ad hoc basis, every time they keep popping up on her radar, her narcissism moves to smearing as a way to deal with it, and then looked at in aggregate, it gives the appearance of a concerted orchestrated smear campaign, but it's not. Bower continues, they're bound by the common business plan of wrecking the royals as much as they can, promoting Brand Sussex, but it is a dying cause. I mean, there's only so much you can say. diminishing returns, and she'll need a new career, he added. Meanwhile, another biographer jokingly said that the former Suits star could go for someone more affluent, say Elon Musk. According to the Telegraph newspaper, Tina Brown made the jest at the 2022 Henley Literary Festival in response to reports that the couple is on the hunt for a new home in California's elite Hope Ranch area. Speaking about the reported move, the author of the Palace Papers, Inside the House of Windsor, The Truth and the Turmoil, said the Duke and Duchess of Sussex live in a modest home. She called the couple's $14 million Montecito mansion a humble cottage compared to what these other people in the Hope Ranch community have. She then jokingly said about Harry's wife, yes, and at some point it might be more than a new house she's looking for. Elon Musk is still single. That's all I have to say. Royal watchers should take these divorce reports with a grain of salt. Harry's wife and Prince Harry have been private about their married life and were even photographed packing on the PDA during a recent Jack Johnson concert. Well, of course, that would have been the provision of a respite period, so one wouldn't necessarily read too much into that. But of course, these observations are starting to have legs, and of course, the dynamic between Harry's wife and Harry is this. She seduced him, golden period. She embedded him as the intimate partner primary source, golden period. And then he's entered the sustained devaluation. The sustained devaluation, when involved with a narcissist as intimate partner primary source, roughly takes place anywhere between 6 to 18 months after the commencement of being the IPPS, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer. And therefore, with Harry, he's well within the sustained devaluation period. That, of course, doesn't mean that she's necessarily going to get rid of him. As I've explained elsewhere, some relationships with the narcissist carry on until one of the parties has died. That roller coaster that goes on for decades. And that's because the victim doesn't escape, and one of the 5 disengagement triggers has not been activated. I've explained in parts passim as to where I believe this relationship will end up. And if you'd like to learn more about that, I direct you to my videos, The Future, in relation to Harry and Harry's wife. You'll find them extremely interesting. This has also been picked up by news.com.au, and Daniela Elsa states, Harry's wife said to be tiring of needy Prince Harry. They're often seen loved up and can't seem to keep their hands off each other, but Harry's wife and Harry's marriage has been called into question. The royal family are supremely good at a number of things. Killing small birds, hoarding jewellery of questionable provenance, and fancying their cousins. Well, they used to anyway. But marriage, decades of wedded bliss, monogamy, all that love and honour stuff, not so much. 3 out of 4 of the Queen's children have divorced their spouses, ensuring that some of London's most expensive lawyers became even wealthier. And pouring cold water on any lingering delusions that a royal wedding automatically guaranteed any sort of happily ever after. And it will come as no surprise, given my comments earlier in this video, that 2 of those 3 children, of course, are narcissists. Au contraire, continues the article. Then in February 2020, Queen Elizabeth's eldest grandchild, Peter Phillips, became the first marital domino to fall from that generation when it was announced that he had split from his wife of 11 years, Autumn Phillips. Don't worry, they are a very modern family, with both Peter and Autumn bringing their new partners to attend the wedding of his half-sister from his father's second marriage with Princess Anne there to boot. However, could another royal marriage be in danger? Biographer extraordinaire Tina Brown, who was also a mate of Diana, Princess of Wales, has appeared at the Henley Literary Festival in the UK and has put the spotlight on the future of the union between Harry and Harry's wife. Speaking of the Sussex's California life, Brown told the crowd, "It's not very pleasant to be a D-list celebrity who, for them, doesn't have enough money. It's a wholly different game to be with those super rich people." There's then reference again to their mansion being viewed as a humble cottage, and then talking about Elon Musk. Let's just pause here for a moment to enjoy the truly bonkers image of Harry's wife and Musk, the erratic billionaire father of 10, as a couple, and her trying to wrangle him into her Frank Gehry-designed meditation yurt to realign his energy centres in between him working on colonising Mars. Now, Brown was clearly in wisecracking mode, along with the fact that this is Harry and Harry's wife we are talking about here, a couple so loved up that they even held hands during a Westminster Hall service for the Queen after her death. That observation, of course, is made by somebody that doesn't understand the dynamic with the narcissist. The holding of hands is more between jailer and prisoner, captor and captive, for reasons that I've explained previously in relation to the use of the grip of doom to control Harry. The article continues, they are far and away the most tactile of the enamoured royal duo, outside of Her Majesty and her favourite pony Emma or Camilla, Queen Consort, and a fresh carton of Benson and Hedges. But what might give us pause for thought here is that Brown, the former editor of Tatler, the New Yorker and Vanity Fair, is not the only big name who has started talking about the state of the Sussex marriage. Tom Bower, the veteran biographer and author of the recent headline-grabbing Revenge, Harry's Wife, Harry and the War Between the Windsors, has told Page 6, there are now many in London who say that Harry's wife is tiring of Harry. In another report from the same publication, Bower also said, I think the funeral awakened some misery in him, that he was so cut off from his family and friends and was an outsider, and I think that puts great pressure on their relationship. It may well be the case that Harry, waking up somewhat by realising that he's so much on the outside, has started to rail against the control that she asserts over him. And that, of course, presents a problem, because she needs to zap his pink pods and keep him in line. In that same piece, the article tells us, Bower said that the Duke clings to his wife like a needy man, like a life raft, and that Harry has been left damaged and very disturbed by the disintegration of his parents' marriage and mother's death. So, how much store should we put in Brown's jesting and Bower's claims? Asks the article. On one hand, there is the fact that according to no less of a source than Harry's wife herself, the series they are working on for Netflix is a documentary about their love story, telling the cut in August. The piece of my life I haven't been able to share, that people haven't been able to see, is our love story. However, of course, that is facade management, and those of you that have been involved with the narcissist will readily recall those instances where the narcissist told you on Monday how much they loved you and that you were the most wonderful person in the world, and then on Tuesday they ended the relationship. The fact that a narcissist says this is our love story, and we're so in love, means fuck all. Quite simply, it's flattery, the assertion of control in a benign way, and then the relationship could be ended the next day. Such is the guillotine way that we function. In pretty much every single image of the Sussexes, they are touching in some way, or beaming at one another, or both. Again, facade management on the part of Harry's wife, and a method of control over Harry. The article continues, however, that does not mean that everything is necessarily smooth sailing. The duo now face a series of stresses in their life. There is the money side of things, with a couple now responsible for footing their estimated $3.1 to $4.7 million security bill, based on 4 estimates provided by security experts to Forbes, and maintaining the $15 million mortgage they took out in 2020 when they bought their 16-loo Monte-Shitshow mansion. The way they are footing those bills is via their whopping $200 million odd worth of deals, reportedly with Netflix, Spotify and Penguin Random House, 3 fronts on which their success is far from guaranteed. More than 2 years after signing on with the TV and movie streamer, they have yet to actually release a single minute of content, with all eyes now on their reportedly forthcoming documentary series. With Netflix having lost $333 billion of its stock price this year, they cannot afford to have the Duke and Duchess on board for PR's sake. They will have to prove that they can perform alongside the Bridgertons of the world. The same goes for Harry's memoir, with the 38-year-old having picked up a $29.2 million advance for $3, the Telegraph has reported. Can you imagine the pressure he must be under to churn out a bestseller? Absolutely. Those potatoes must be becoming fried into chips, the amount of heat that's coming from his sweaty hands. In last August, Harry's wife's first podcast series, Archetypes, launched. Oddly, while the series overall the 3rd most popular podcast in the United States, only 1 out of the 4 episodes released so far, The Demystification of the Dragon Lady with Margaret Cho and Lisa Ling, is in the top 100 podcast episodes on Spotify. Well, we all know what's going on there. A home run it certainly is not. All of which is to say, so far, the Sussex have yet to actually prove themselves as content creators or the sort of celebrities who are worth paying eye-poppingly large sums of money to. Well, most of the world could have told you that, of course, but there's some executives at Netflix and Spotify whose sphincters must be going wow, 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 wow. All of these deals were inked within 18 months of their sensational exit from Royal Life when their stock was at its peak. If they fail to deliver hits all round, how likely is that other big entertainment names will be keen to fork out tens of millions to work with them? Short answer is they won't, will they? But wait, there is more, because we can't overlook Harry's ongoing alienation from his family. The Sussexes seem to be left facing one public humiliation after another during their extended stay in the UK last month, including being disinvited to stage reception and shunted into the second row for Her Majesty's funeral. On the weekend, the Telegraph reported, fundamentally, there has been no thawing of the relationship between the Sussexes and their British family. Imagine being Harry and having lost the closeness he used to share with his brother William, and to be so distant, figuratively and literally, from his loved ones. Consider, too, that Harry now lives far, far away from the tight-knit group of friends he has had since childhood and his adolescence. The only person who he's ever really photographed with, aside from his wife, is Argentinian polo hottie Nacho Figueras, with both men playing on the Los Padres team. Which leaves us here. A very much in-love couple, no they're not, who are facing not insignificant money, career, legal and family stresses. Last week it was announced that Harry, along with stars including Elton John, Sadie Frost and Elizabeth Hurley, are taking legal action against the Daily Mail's parent company, alleging the publisher of gross breaches of privacy. That's a hell of a lot of weight for any marriage to bear up under, let alone when we are talking about two of the most famous people in the world. I'll leave you with this last thought, though. There is one thing that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex are superb at: defying expectations. They have time and again charted their own course and have done things how they seem best, going against perceived wisdom and sensationally flying in the face of the status quo. Absolutely they have, but that doesn't mean that they've been successful at it. On this one, I reckon Harry's wife is dead set right. Above all, love wins. Well, unfortunately, this writer doesn't understand the narcissistic dynamic. And to take the view that love wins is the use of the love-devotee trait, it doesn't. Not where a narcissist is involved. We have no emotional empathy. And while unaware narcissists believe that they love, we do not. We have no emotional empathy, and that means we cannot love. The fact is, Harry was selected by Harry's wife because he was inherently easy to control, for reasons I've explained elsewhere. He provides her with huge amounts of fuel, but also he has significant character traits and huge residual benefits that her narcissism was quite simply salivating at in order to sink her claws into. Unfortunately, because it is always the case, that the fuel that he provides ultimately becomes stale. But alongside that, the character traits that once seemed so shiny are being dulled as a consequence of their exclusion from the royal family. Furthermore, those residual benefits are now fading. Utilising his name enabled her to leverage off that to get her hands into facade management, networks, and money. But because, as I have repeatedly explained, her narcissism was exceptional at getting her into this position, but it can't keep her there, which means, because both he and her have no inherent ability or talent to deliver upon these massive contracts, means that they're under pressure, that her financial haphazard nature means that she will overspend beyond means or race through the money far quicker, believing, driven by her narcissism, that it isn't a problem because it's always going to find a way out of it because it's focused on the now. And therefore, his residual benefits are starting to plummet. So as a combination of the fact that his fuel becomes stale because she's with him so often, the fact that he's possibly becoming more difficult to control because he's miserable, that he's fed up of living in California, and he's been given a taste of what he's actually left behind when he returned for his grandmother's funeral, the fact that those character traits aren't as shiny as they once were, and the residual benefits are coming under pressure, means that Harry's wife's narcissism is not only causing her to act towards him with the sustained devaluation, but also those disengagement triggers may well be looming, with the consequence that he could well be on his way out, and the divorce court is ahead. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.